Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode in the Crush Cash Game series. It is Friday. Hope everybody's had a great weekend. As always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, click that little button. I love accumulating subscribers. Makes me super happy, makes me super grateful that people are enjoying my creations and contributions to the poker world. It appears as if these tables are new, so we don't have a lot of data on our opponents. I did have some good news today. I checked the software website for OBS, and they have introduced a stream delay for Mac. So expect to see me on Twitch very soon. If you have not checked out enhanceyouredge.com and joined my newsletter, I will be sure to email my newsletter my Twitch schedule once it is created. You also get a bunch of videos that I made at limits that are 25 cent, 50 cent, 50 cent, $1. There's some 3, 6, and 2, 4 in there as well. Not many decisions happening right now. It looks like the bottom left table may not be so good. 3-betting the 10-4 off, because that's how we do. Once villain flats out of position, he's generally pretty Broadway heavy. Pocket 8s, pocket 9s, hands like that, I think, comprise a lot of his range. He also probably has some premiums, aces and kings potentially. We actually turn a good card for us. I believe our thought on the turn is that we do have enough showdown equity now that we would like to get to showdown. We beat 7s, 8s, 9s. We do lose to ace queen. Losing to ace queen is perfectly reasonable in that situation. Not going to be firing 2 shells and getting rid of ace queen anyway. Great thing about Bovada, they see that we 3-bet polarized with a 10-4 off, and when we leave this table, we no longer exist. Information goes poof. If we are playing on a site where villains do know our tendencies, know that we're 3-betting polarized, it gets a little trickier. We have to figure out ways to neutralize villains, and that's going to be calling some 4-bets in position, exerting pressure post flop. We just have to go farther down the decision tree and then make better decisions with position against our opponents. Hope everybody's enjoying the cool weather outside. This is my 100% favorite time of the year. Love going on walks. Gonna be hating life in about a month and a half when it gets so cold that have to wear hoodies every day, and ugh. Going to be opening the king 7 off if they fold to us, and if we did open the king 7 off and the 1 seat were to 3-bet us, we would be for sure 4-betting. Under the gun raise, small blind flats from both seemingly regulars. I think the range tends to be bunches of pocket pairs and king queen ace queen type hands from the small blind, the 6 seat at the bottom right table. in my experience, those are the type of hands that most people flat. I think one thing that probably needs to be done more in this population, I feel like players are raising a little too loose under the gun. I think that we can 3-bet bluff from the blinds versus an under the gun raise pretty profitably, just because the population doesn't do it enough. And I don't think the difference between raising under the gun versus raising the cutoff is going to be super duper huge. But definitely the range for continuing in a perceived spot where our range is much stronger versus under the gun, it's going to be really hard for them to call. Can't play the tray 4 off at the bottom left. Doesn't look like these games are magical. Looks like we got 3 seed at the top left table. That is going to be pretty weak. 2 seed at the top right table. Probably the 4 seed as well. Bottom right table. Bottom right table doesn't look too promising against anyone. I'm also experimenting with the new tile. As you can see, we got some overlap. Don't think we're gonna have any issues, and also we get a wider shot at the table. So I think it's gonna reduce the black lines on the side. Flush draw at the bottom right. We're going to be check calling most of our ace X's. Not going to be check raising. Hoping the turn, if we brick off, the turn goes check check. The river we can bet small. Have a decent amount of repability. As played, we're just going to be winning with king queen on the river. If we did not make a king or a queen, we're for sure going to be betting the river. Can't do anything other than fold the 9s at the top left table. Under the gun's a short stack. The 5 seed is 3-betting a short stack and an under the gun raiser, so his range just has to have 9 smashed. And let's not forget, even if we decided that 5 seed could be doing it light for whatever reason, 3 seed is a short stack. 3 seed did raise under the gun, so we can get into trouble 4-betting versus him as well. That's a spot where I would be folding 10s as well. Jacks is tougher. I actually think I like folding jacks as well. Queens we can 4 queens plus, and ace king we can 4-bet. Playing relatively tight at the bottom right table. If the 6 seed does opt to 3-bet us, we would be 4-betting them. The 1 seed at the bottom right table is probably going to be a fish. Is 100% a fish. Like 3-betting tiny, potting flop. C-betting the ace-8. Once we face resistance, just giving up. Gonna be 4-betting the kings for value. Feel as if this villain just 3-bet us. We just played passively, so he's gonna be peeling our 4-bet. I wouldn't mind checking this board, giving him a chance to bet pot, which is what he just did. And I'm not entirely convinced that he did have an ace or did have value. Checking this turn is pretty much a must. Feel like he should be betting. Since he didn't bet, what do we think? We think he's got some sort of showdown value. Some sort of showdown value hand. One pair. Seems like a fish. We could have very well sized smaller. I liked, at the time, I liked making it look bluffier and jamming. In hindsight, though, we can probably get like $142 called way more often than we can the overbet. The way I looked at it at the time was he was either going to be calling with his one pair type hands or he wasn't. My sizing wouldn't alter the fold equity that much, but that very well might not have been the case. Even though the fact that he folded so quickly makes me just think that he had a hand like Ace X that was a gut shot, or potentially a flush draw. Not raising with the Queen Jack suited at the top left, 2-seat limped under the gun. There have been a rash of limp raises lately, especially from, I mean, I don't know if it's like the same player or what, but guys with nitty stats limp and then raise. I've actually been 4-betting them small, and the 2 times that I have 4-bet them with bluffs, they have just snap folded. So I really feel like they're using their image to their advantage. They believe that their opponents perceive that they're tied, perceive that they don't raise that much. So occasionally they'll just limp under the gun and go for the limp raise, which isn't the worst strategy that I've ever heard of. It only becomes a problem if every time I face a limp raise, I 4-bet them and they just snap fold. Then they're pretty exploitable, and that's going forward probably going to be pretty close to my plan. We could 4-bet the Jack 10, but the reason I don't like 4-betting is that the 1 seat is an obvious fish. 1 seat likely to peel versus that squeeze, which makes me feel like it's more legitimate. Also, the 2 seat, if they had a marginal type hand, they would just flat it, invite the 1 seat in. I would say a 3-bet range for the 2 seat at the bottom right table just there would be Ace Queen plus, Ace Queen and 10s plus. And if they're not polarized at all, they're not ever 3-betting suited connectors, they're not ever 3-betting smaller pocket pairs, it's going to be a mistake to be 4-bet bluffing them a ton. In order for our 4-bet bluffs to be profitable, they need to have Ace X suited, they need to have the suited connectors, they need to have hands a wider range than like 10s plus, Ace Queen plus. not having not getting a ton of action throughout this session. Good news at the bottom right table. Looks like the guys on our direct right are playing pretty tight and passive, and the guy on our left is incredibly tight and passive. So we have a we're six-handed, and 3 of the players are basically non-factors. I do think at the bottom right table, the 4 seats 3-bet here is going to be pretty light. I could see 4-bet bluff by the 2 seat working with a pretty good frequency. Like I talked about in previous episodes, we're aware of Villain's stats. Villain is very much aware of his own stats. Whenever I'm playing, whenever I have a run of like 80 or 90 hands where I've been playing super nitty, not 3-betting, just not had any good opportunities, or maybe I haven't 3-bet because I have a fish on my left. The other day I played like 160 hands at one table, and I hadn't 3-bet one single time just because of the fish on my left. I was pretty much flatting a lot of premiums, flatting a lot of hands. So, with that said, me being very aware of my image, when I do 3-bet, I'm going to be 3-betting probably pretty light. Like, I'm going to be 3-bet bluffing just because I think I can get away with it with a higher frequency based on my opponent's perception of my stats. And every single poker player that plays more than recreationally and has a HUD and has information, they're going to think about things exactly the same. So just because a guy's playing 7-4-0 like on my left, I mean 7-4-0s, that's a pretty that's a pretty tough one to play. But like the 4 seed at the bottom right, who's playing 17-17, he can definitely be aware that he hasn't played many hands and open up, raise lighter on the button, 3-bet a little lighter, and know that he's going to be getting away with it. I kind of have that image at the top left table right now. So it's just it's an interesting thing where players are aware of their stats and are going to use them against other people just because of the perception, which makes the stats work against us. It makes his frequencies not very accurate. A good experiment would be the next time you play poker, next time you're playing a session and you realize that, like, if you're playing on Bovada or an anonymous table, after 60 hands at a table where you've been a nit, keep track of, like, say, your next couple of 3-bets. Keep track of the 3-bets you make when your stats look nitty, and then see how often you're bluffing when you do 3-bet. And I think that result will be sort of surprising and potentially a wake-up call to 4-bet players with nittier stats over 40 to 60 hands a little bit more liberally than you have been. On the same token, whenever I've 3-bet like 15% over a given sample size, I expect to start getting action, which makes me tighten up my 3-bet percentage because of the perception. So when I do 3-bet and I have like a 15% 3-bet over 60 hands, I'm likely to be 3-betting pretty much premium hands, unless of course there's, I have a very valid reason for 3-betting with a super high frequency, like a guy's playing 80% of hands and raising 40%, folding to 3-bets never, and folding to tons of flop continuation bets. That's just a guy that, we just have to 3-bet him over and over and over again and c-bet and that we're going to just get tons of profit. For the most part, if you just get on a heater, get in a bunch of situations early on that really raises your 3-bet percentage, generally I tighten up. And again, just use my opponent's perception of me against them. And it's one of those situations, you know, where you're playing against a guy who's got a super crazy image, and we call him down marginally, and you know, shockingly, he has the nuts, and we think to ourselves, wow, like that was a pretty nice setup, etc., etc. Well, one thing that may have been happening is we just had a complete wrong perception of the villain's range in that situation, and he's only going to show up with hands that are monsters that crush us. And I would say that if a situation happens where we think, oh, that's terribly unlucky, oh, we ran in the top of his range, he would do that with way worse, and the reality is that he wouldn't, then we're basically justifying our poor play and our bad decision making. We're reinforcing it and just assuming that they got lucky, when the reality was they put a lot of effort into establishing an image and then making a play that was in line with their image, that we felt it was in line with their image of being super aggressive and super crazy. We misinterpreted it and paid off way lighter than we otherwise would have. That's our mistake. Got about 7 minutes left. Just one more time, I want to, let you guys know. I'm going to be twitching probably within the next week once I get everything set up. Any suggestions, thoughts, comments you might have, I would love to hear from you. You can email me, brad@enhanceyouredge.com. I would really like to know if y'all would like me to 4-table, 2-table, what kind of delay you want me to be on. This is a spot at the bottom left table that I've been thinking about, or I've been talking about, where villain squeezes, villain hasn't 3-bet yet. Feel like villain, I fold the C-bet, I fold the 3-bets 100%. We have an ace blocker. Feel like he's going to be doing this a lot wider than his stats indicate. And just in case it doesn't work out, got my auto reload going. So he flats, which is interesting. Fully expect to get it in on this board. Quite happy. Pretty much the nuts for our ace-7. Very hard to know what he peeled with. What he peeled a 4-bet out of position with there. I would say ace-queen, very ace-queen heavy. Ace-queen suited. Great spot with the queens at the bottom right. Maniac fish raising under the gun. Not really folding a 3-bet, so awesome value. Going to 3-bet quite large versus the 1-seat, since he's prone to flat 3-bets. The 4-seat is the 4-seat has some depth. I don't expect the 4-seat to peel versus such a huge 3-bet. Jack 8, we can bet. In hindsight, checking's okay too. This villain may expect us to check our ace kings on this turn. Tough to get another bet out of him. I think it's got to be a very tiny bet. Probably $52 in hindsight is what I would have liked to have bet. I don't think he's going to be bluffing here any substantial portion of the time. Let's see what he had. I just had ace-10 high. So if we do make a tiny bet and villain shoves, we are for sure calling. We block queen-jack. Don't think he's got a ton of queens, a ton of jacks in his range. Think he's going to be very bluff heavy. If he does have a jack on that king turn, he's going to be betting it pretty much every time. So we don't have to worry about being beat, whether we check call or make a small bet to induce a raise and call. Either way, it's going to be just fine. I do like making a small bet on the river, though, because occasionally we get paid by 9s, 10s, especially by a fish. Also, the potential's there that it does induce a raise. Kind of surprised he didn't stab with ace-10, but just too afraid of the king on the turn. Villain is fishy at the top left table where we 3-bet him and then c-bet the flop. King 7 deuce rainbow. We block ace king. We block king jack. Gonna be c-betting there pretty much all day long. Sometimes twice on Tuesdays. Looks like we got a real character at the top left table, opening 25 cold. That is going to be just fantastic news for the home team. Looks like we've got about 3 minutes left in this video. Thank you so much for watching as always. Please subscribe to my channel. Anything you would like to hear me talk about, anything you would like to see, I am open to all suggestions. Love creating value for you guys. Hope everybody has been just annihilating the games, making great decisions. I'm sure you have. Looks like this video got about 2 minutes left. Unfortunately for us, villain bricks his flush draw at the bottom right table. One of those situations where now he has lost 2.5 buy-ins over 51 hands, and now he is out of here. Always rooting for the fish in those spots. One thing that is kind of funny to me, when I was playing live, a regular would be in a spot against a weaker amateur player and just make a huge bet on the river where it's blatantly obvious that he has the nuts, and the fish would tank and tank and tank and finally call. Every single regular at the table is just praying they don't call, and once they do call, like the air is just let out of everyone. Three betting the deuces, heads up at the bottom right. Am 3-betting because felt like villain is only going to be playing one more hand. Also felt like he would be willing to just give up pretty easily. And there we go, gentlemen. Hope y'all have a great weekend.
I will see y'all on Monday in my video vault. Take care.